Hello Patriots, and welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to be discussing some of the constitutional crimes that are being committed by Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. Now, I'm a veteran. I'm a combat veteran. And when I swore into the U.S. military, I took an oath to defend this, the Constitution of the United States, against all enemies, foreign or domestic. That meant quite a lot to me, and I bet there's a bunch of it out there that says, you know what, that still means a lot to me too. And that oath did not expire the day that we left active service. So I'm not going to let Kentucky Governor Beshear continue to violate the very foundation of our government without that going unchecked and calling him out for that. So we're going to give you a list of a few of these things today. This is by no means an exhaustive list of all of his constitutional violations, but it should get you started. So let's think about this. The Constitution is the highest law in the entire land. So let's play a little quiz here. What do you call it when somebody breaks a law? They have committed a what? If you just said crime, award yourself 2 Patriot points. Yes, you can keep track of these Patriot points and redeem them for, well, for nothing, but they're still fun to collect, so I hope you'll be doing that as we go through the video. Well, let's talk about some of the ways that the governor has been violating our constitutionally protected rights. First of all, the First Amendment. The First Amendment has actually 5 freedoms in it, and Governor Beshear has been violating several of those. The very first one is the freedom of religion. Remember, it was this Easter Sunday when Governor Beshear says, hey, you are not allowed to go to church in person because I say so. Now, you could go to the abortion clinic that day. You can go to the Walmart. You can go to Kroger. Hundreds of people there. That's all fine. You can go and be with all those people. You just can't go to church, even if your church had 20, 30 people. No exceptions whatsoever. This is a violation of the constitutionally protected freedom of religion. In fact, some of the churches in the state took the governor to the court, and the court sided with the church and said, yes, Governor, you are violating the Constitution, and that is why we're able to open the churches back up freely without fear that he's going to try to come in and shut us down or to take everybody away. There's another way that he's been violating one of the freedoms of the First Amendment, and that is the freedom of assembly. Remember, the governor, I think 2 or 3 different times now, has issued limits on how many people can assemble together. He says at one point you can only have 10 people in a room, and another time he said, well, you can only have 50. Let me ask you a question. Does the freedom of assembly say you have the freedom to assemble until the governor says that you don't? If you just answered no, award yourself another Patriot point, because that is correct. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say you have freedom of assembly unless your local governor just declares the Constitution is no longer in effect. Here's another way that he's been violating the Constitution, and that is the freedom of speech, where he's tried to stop people who are protesting against him. And this is a huge thing. How dare he tell people that you do not have your constitutionally protected rights of freedom of speech? Now, those who are siding with him, oh, he'll show up at their events and he'll talk to them. No mask, no social distancing. That's okay. But if you want to speak against him, he tried to shut that down. Again, we had to take him to court. And again, the courts sided with the people and said, Governor Beshear, you do not have any authority at all to stop these people from speaking against you. So once again, the courts have sided on the side of the Constitution and on the side of the people. Let's talk about one other thing with the First Amendment, and that is the right of the petition for the redress of grievances. We have now nearly 1 million Kentuckians who have been placed out of work because of Governor Beshear's mandates. And so what do? They've tried to call the unemployment department. They want to get answers. Why am I not getting unemployment insurance? This is their right of redress. And I can keep coming back saying, hey, there's a problem here. Here we are more than 6 months into this with people being put out of work. We still have more than 70,000 Kentuckians who've received nothing. And now they're not receiving even any answers. The phone's not being answered over at the unemployment department. And 2 weeks ago, the Kentucky State Senate did a press conference, and they said that even the senators of the Kentucky General Assembly, they can't get the governor to answer their phone calls. They can't get the unemployment department to answer theirs, and they're the senators for Kentucky's General Assembly. So there's 4 ways that he's violated the Constitution, but I'm going to give you some others. The 4th Amendment of the Constitution says that the people have the right to be secure in their persons, their papers, their effects, and that no warrants to search any of that shall be issued unless there is probable cause. Well, let's talk about the way he's been violating this. And that's with this whole contact tracing thing. And any opportunity I can get to go like this, I always take that. So contact tracing, this is where the governor is going to have people call you up and say, hey, I want to know where you've been. I want to know who you talked to. I want to know everybody who was there and how long were you there. This is a blatant violation of the 4th Amendment, and he has no right whatsoever to do that. And he's doing all of these things, calling you in your home, wanting to know who you've been with, where you've been, how long you were there, with no warrant, no probable cause that you've committed any crime, absolutely nothing. It's not that you even tested positive for the virus. It's just, I want to know who was there, what were you doing, and how many people were there. Violation of the 4th Amendment. Well, let's talk about the 6th Amendment to the Constitution. Does anybody know the 6th Amendment actually guarantees you how many freedoms? If you said 2 freedoms, then award yourself 2 more Patriot points for getting both of those correct. The 6th Amendment guarantees you the right to a speedy trial and a public trial. Now, here's one of the problems that Governor Beshear has with the 6th Amendment and the way that he's violating the Constitution. He has now health departments throughout Kentucky going to businesses and saying, hey, you're not enforcing this mask mandate, which, by the way, is not a law. It's just something that he made up. And so he's telling the health departments, and he's using them like the Nazi Gestapo with scare and bully tactics. And he's saying, hey, if you're not enforcing this, then we're going to issue you a fine. Now, think about this. When you get, let's say, a speeding ticket, almost everybody's probably got a speeding ticket, one of the most minor infractions of the law that a person can commit. If you get a speeding ticket, does the ticket say at the bottom, hey, make all checks payable to the police department? It doesn't say that at all, does it? It says, no, you can make the checks payable either to the county or to the city or the state, depending on which level a police officer gave you the ticket, state trooper, a sheriff, or a city police officer. However, with these health department fines, you make the check out directly to the health department that's issuing you the fine. Well, that's crooked as all get out. That's violating my right to a speedy and public trial. And do you know why? Because even if you get a parking or speeding ticket, it'll have a court date on that ticket. Do you know what's on this citation from the health department that Beshear's sending after people? No court date. You have no right to a trial, whether it's speedy or public. He's violated both of those things. You don't get your day in court. You don't get your right to go before a judge. You don't get the right of appeal. You don't get the right of an attorney. All of these things, which you would get even if you had the most minor of infractions with a speeding or parking ticket, you get none of those. With Beshear's new citations through the health department, they've decided you can pay us directly and you get no right to a speedy or a public trial or an attorney or anything else. In fact, we will be the judge, and we've decided that you're guilty, and we've also decided the amount of the fee that you can pay immediately to us. Crooked as all get out and a constitutional crime. Well, I'll tell you what, let's give you one other because you've been so good. How are you doing on your Patriot points? Let's talk about the 8th Amendment. Does anybody out there know what your 8th Amendment freedom is? If you said your 8th Amendment freedom protects you against cruel and unusual punishments, award yourself a bonus Patriot point. Yes, the 8th Amendment says you are protected against cruel and unusual punishments. So let me ask you a question. Would it be cruel to say, I want to make sure that you're locked up in your house and you cannot go anywhere, not for breaking any laws, just because I said so? Well, yes, that would be both cruel and unusual. Who heard of getting somebody locked up when they've not actually broken a law? And yet that's what Governor Beshear has done, violating the 8th Amendment, because he issued two things. First of all, the travel ban. He says you're not allowed to leave the state, you're not allowed to come into the state because I've issued a travel ban. And if you do, then you're supposed to be quarantined, basically under house arrest for 2 weeks. Now, are you under house arrest because you've broken any law? No, again, there's no law that's created. It's just a decree that he issued forth. So you've not broken any law, yet you're supposed to be locked up for 2 weeks in your house. And second, you don't even have the virus. It's not that people who tested positive for the virus were under quarantine. Then he might have had a leg to stand on. He's just saying, well, because you violated my decree, you have to be under house arrest for 2 weeks. That's both cruel and unusual. And it ties back into the thing we started with. It goes back to what he did on Easter Sunday. People who actually dared to go to church in person on the holiest day of the year for Christians, such as myself. He deployed the state police to issue quarantine notices. And he said, these are mandatory quarantine. You got to be locked in your house for 2 weeks. Did he do that because the people had broken a law? Nope, no law. Did he do it because somebody tested positive? Nope. No tests were given. Did he do it because somebody there had even said they had the virus? Nope, not a single one. He just did it because he declares it so. He is therefore violating repeatedly the 8th Amendment to the Constitution. And really, would-be dictators love emergencies, because in an emergency, you know what happens? What happens is that people are willing to give away freedoms that they never would have given away with hardly any kind of a protest whatsoever. And that's the problem with emergencies and how would-be dictators love to take advantage of those. So here's just a quick list of a few ways that Governor Beshear has been violating and committing crimes against the United States Constitution. He's also done a bunch against the Kentucky Constitution, but I don't want to make this video any longer than it already is. So how'd you do on your Patriot points? I hope you got a lot of them. If you'll hit the like button, you can award yourself 1 extra Patriot point. Well, that's it for this one. I hope you'll tune in for each and every video. And until the next video, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point. Stand strong and breathe free.